It's crazy, but okay. The next topic is power rankings. We're just going to start from the bottom and work our way back up. Paris, 12th.
100%.
There's not a roster. They're just 12th by default. So I'm actually going to write this down and then make changes as necessary.
Okay.
So there's number 1 to 12, and then Paris is default 12th.
See, and then I feel like after them, it gets kind of rough to decide who's going to be like.
If you want me to be completely transparent, I think Florida is the next worst.
Really?
I mean, Florida wasn't good last year, and I feel like that's just a downgrade across the board. Like, Awakening is good, Slack is good, but they don't really have slaying power. Like, technically at one point, Skies last year had the highest KD in the Pro League, but that was because his team was doing fuck all and he was just slaying out.
Yeah, fair.
So,
I mean,
for my 11th seeded power ranking, it has to either be London or Florida. I feel like London's
Florida
roster
could do something, but I would agree they're going to be lower tier.
I mean, any team with Havoc is always a wild card because you have to think Havoc is the one player besides Aches that's actually managed to upset good teams every year.
Right.
So it's just him. But like Slacked, he's going to get your OBJ time. I don't know enough about Awakening. I know he's nasty. I don't know enough about him. I know Skies is a Slayer, and I know Havoc is an S&D star. Just do those players combined amount to anything? I'm not sure.
Fair. I feel like if they would have had F3 still, RIP, but I feel like they could have did something.
At that rate, they're definitely an S&D team.
Right. But
like, you have to compare, like, let's compare Florida to, like, Seattle. Like, Seattle, if we're comparing pound to pound, Prestini is slacked. I lied, sorry. Looney is slacked. Prestini is Awakening. Gunless is nasty, but he's also a terrible teammate. And then there's Octane. Octane can make a bad team good. Because Octane is one of the best players in the league. I mean, that's...
Definitely not last year.
That's completely different.
Yeah, that's Modern Warfare.
That's Modern Warfare and everything happening behind the scenes with Seattle.
Right.
But, like, so, yeah, my number 11, I'm going to go with Florida.
It's respectable. Then after that, I feel like you have to put Ravens.
After that, it's definitely London, yeah. Because like I was saying earlier, the London, this is a downgrade from their last year's roster.
Yeah.
Granted.
I don't see how the Twins did, like, how
dude,
are they not on that team?
They had to have slept with someone's sister.
No, had to have. Like
there's no chance.
They even tweeted out that they would take the lowest amount possible just to play.
I just don't get it.
Side note, I'm pretty sure Scraps is one of the 3 or one of the 4 of Paris.
I mean, if Scraps is one of the
allegedly,
if Scraps ends up in Paris, they get better. But I mean, they'll be a decent-ish team because Scraps is one of those players that can take over a map. But
right.
Not much to say. Alex is good, Dylan's good, Shawnee's a solid AR, Zero is a wild card. He either pops off or goes triple negative.
I agree.
Let's move up the list. Number 9. What do we got?
Number 9.
Yeah, Paris 12, Florida 11, London 10.
Oh, okay. Duh. Oh, I forgot how to math.
Toronto's my number 9, probably, looking at the rosters. Methods is good, Kleenex is nasty, Cammy's solid, Bance is their weakest player, in my opinion. I don't think Bance has done anything since not World War II, BO3.
So, here's my kind of issue. I feel like it's either out of them or LAG. Because if Vivid doesn't slay out for LAG, or doesn't show up for LAG, then they're going to be lower, 100%. But the way that Toronto was popping off at the end of last year, which Modern Warfare, I get it, but they were coming together and being a good squad.
All right, here's my counter to that, because Los Angeles right now is going to be my number 8 team after them.
Okay, well, fair.
Silly Apathy and Assault, the last 4v4 COD won a world championship.
Right, but they sucked the entire year.
Okay, but they won when it mattered, and plus Apathy. Silly is one of the weirdest players in the CDL. He always does well, but you would never know he does well by watching him play. It looks
Fair.
like he doesn't know what to do on the map most of the time, but when you look at the end of the game, he's double positive. Apathy, when he's not like base smashing constantly, one of the best SMG players in the league, always turns up when he needs to turn up. Assault is a solid AR, and then Vivid. Maybe Vivid can slay, so Apathy won't have to lose his mind.
Okay, so if that's the case, it's on Apathy and Vivid. If they decide to show up, they could be a good squad.
It's gonna be on Apathy and Vivid to understand what their roles are, because Apathy in this instance is 1000% the OBJ player.
Right.
Along with probably Silly. Assault's gonna slay out, and then Vivid has to slay out. It's gonna come down to if Apathy can accept his role. Not like he has a problem with accepting roles, but like in the moment in the game, can he remember what he's supposed to be doing? So, based on what I just said, Methods and Kleenex I don't think can carry Cammy and Bance. Vivid and Assault might be able to help assist Silly and Apathy. So my number 9 is going to be Toronto, and my number 8 is going to be the Los Angeles Guerrillas.
Okay. I mean, we're still pretty close. I would have them flopped or switched, but I can see where you're coming from 100%.
It's also going to be just down to this. Like, out of the people on Toronto, like I said, Bance hasn't really made noise since, like, IW, when Splice won an event. Methods is always a good player, but at the end of the day, Methods' best asset to a COD team is, like, his Twitter presence. I'm just joking. Methods is nasty, but then there's Kleenex. Kleenex is disgusting. There's no other way to put that. That guy is on a level that I wish to ascend to, and then I just don't know a lot about Cammy. He's a name I know he's good, but just does he work in this roster enough to carry them? I don't think so. And then within the raw topic of Toronto, we already talked about LAG, so moving on to number 7. Let's see. It's going to be, for me, between the Minnesota Rocker or Seattle.
I'd put Surge under Rocker.
It depends. It depends what gunless we get.
It in my opinion, Seattle is a completely emotional team. If they fall, or like if they let the emotions get the best of them, they're not going to be good.
Like, here's my thought process on this. While I agree with that, gunless, I already stated he's just not a good teammate. He has a history of benching himself when things don't go his way. That's the sign of a bad teammate. However, Looney's on this team, and the last time Looney and gunless teamed in World War II, unless they teamed and I completely just forgot about it, Looney and Gunless won 3 events under Rise Nation. Looney might be the leader that Gunless needs. And then on top of that, Gunless is also one with Pristini, but here's my issue when it comes into that. Pristini and Looney play the exact same role. They're both SMG players that have a 0.8 to a 0.9 KD, and they're like both entry fraggers. It's going to come down to them deciding who's who in the realm of slaying and OBJing. Because Octane's going to slay, Gunless is going to slay, but then you have 2 guys that are just kind of both doing the exact same thing. Which, if you have 2 guys both face smashing a hardpoint, they're both probably going to die. And then that puts your AR, who's not going to move in a bad spot, and Gunless in a bad spot.
Right. They definitely they have potential as a roster. It's just, I feel like they're a super emotional team. So, like, as soon as they lose once and, like, they start losing full, then I think it's over for them.
I mean, yeah, that's how it always is. Gunless has benched himself many times because the teams are, like, meh. But, like, that's what I'm saying. If Looney can keep Gunless in check, that's not going to be a factor. My biggest issue with this team, from taking them from a solid pro team to a good pro team, is who's baiting for Octane. Because it sure as shit isn't going to be Gunless.
Right. Honestly, I can see it being Pristini.
It might have to be. Like, Looney might have to pull out a third AR and just kind of fill in lanes and let Pristini face smash.
Yeah, I could 100% see that happening.
But anyway, Seattle at number 7, which makes Minnesota my number 6 by what I just said. So attach, accuracy, Major Maniac, and Priesta.
I feel like that's going to be a sleeper squad.
That's going to be the one that has the most potential to make noise. It's not in my top 4.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like they can, if they figure out how they want to play together, they could be a nasty squad.
This is the first roster, I think, where the meta is going to come into play, because Major Maniac main AR'd for FaZe, didn't he? Or was that, no, that was Celium. He was the second AR, but he still ran an AR every match. So Major Maniac and accuracy combined, that's going to be a nasty AR squad. It's just going to come down to...
Major Maniac for whenever he played on Gen G, didn't he flex?
I mean, that was because of Mox and how good the Maddox was.
Okay, but I mean, in this one right now, you got the Krig and the AK. The AK can be run. You can run it as a flex.
The AK is the main AR. In every scrim I've watched, the AK is the main AR and the Krieg is the flex gun. Unless you're OpTic and then Formal's using the M4.
Okay, fair. But I mean, I feel like he can definitely run either or.
I mean, here's the thing. If that's the case, he's not using an AK then. His accuracy's using the AK.
Okay.
I don't know what accuracy he's actually using. I'm just speaking hypothetically. I'm just speaking in terms of what the rules are. The only issue with this team is that there's not a true SMG player. This is accuracy and then 3 flexes.
Yeah.
But like that works in their favor in this game because the SMGs are trash right now.
Right. And I feel like if it is still a 3 AR 1 sub, I feel like we could see Attach running that sub.
I feel like it's Priesta.
Really?
Priesta's been the predominant. I mean, yeah, he was the flex player for 100 Thieves in BO4, and he ran a SOG. Him and Enable ran SOGs because Kenny sucked with it.
Right.
So Priesta is probably going to be the SMG player. Attach is probably using an SMG, but he's not using it like an SMG, and then Maniac and Accuracy are your 2 ARs. Which that's the one squad without... Depending on map vetoes, that's a team that can probably take a map from anybody.
Oh yeah, 100%. They would definitely be my sleeper pick.
So let's put that down. Minnesota for number 6. And then number 5. Who have we not said yet?
Subliners, Empire, Thieves, OpTic, and FaZe.
Number 5 is between LA and New York for me.
I would probably go with New York, personally. Solely because they still don't know who their 4th actually is.
I mean, as of right now, it has to be Asim, because there's no chance a guy from Paris is playing on Paris.
Well, they ran a few scrims.
They did, and that's how they figured out that they couldn't play with him.
Fair.
Like, here's my issue with this pick. It's all going to rely on Temp.
Yeah.
Temp is a good player, but he falls into the same category as Gunless, where he's not a good teammate. And then him and Slasher have already been proven that they can't play together, because in World War II, Slasher literally left Envy before a tournament even ended. So, like, Slasher played with TJ last year, LA OpTic didn't do anything. Slasher played with Kenny last year, LA OpTic didn't do anything, but Kenny and Slasher won on 100 Thieves, but that was because on 100 Thieves they had Octane.
Right.
Temp played with Subliners last year, and they actually won their own home series, I think.
Yeah.
But that was on
a... think about it. As soon as... Because I heard, or quote-unquote, OpTic had a lot of internal issues, too, last year.
Well, I mean, of course, Dashy benched himself.
So, I mean, they were scrambling, trying to figure out what they were doing probably most of the season. And, I mean, as soon as Conchance came, whenever it mattered, they actually showed up.
That's true, but at the same time, like, no one expected them to do anything going into that event. They just kind of turned up when they needed to until Envoy slayed them.
And 11. I mean, Slasher and Kenny went to, I want to say Dallas for Chance, and ended up playing a lot better. And now that I'm pretty sure all of them are going to be in Dallas playing.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, Slasher's the top 3 AR. It's right. Formal Slasher, Octane. Slasher can carry teams. Kenny is a very solid player. That's an asinine statement. Kenny's a really good player. He just can't use certain guns.
Right.
TJ will do what it takes to win, but at the same time, TJ also has really bad mindsets sometimes. And then Temp is just... It's basically Slasher not pissing off Temp and letting Temp do what Temp wants to do.
Yeah.
The only way this team works.
I feel like that's going to be the main thing. And as long as Tej enjoys the game and wants to play the game, I think it'll be all right as long as Slasher and Temp don't clash.
And then let's flip this back because we're still deciding on number 5. The New York Subliners. Clayster and Zuma have teamed together before. They won events before, but at the same time, they also fought a lot when they teamed on FaZe.
I've actually seen some scrims from them, and I might consider putting them under, like, lower than 5. Like, that would be a big possibility for me, because Clayster is consistently losing full.
Yeah, but that's not like... Clayster can lose full and the team can still be good. The one thing I will say is that they're all basically on record saying they are the worst control team in the league. There's a clip of Clayster somewhere saying that they have no idea how to win a map of control. So that's not good, and I'm surprised that it made it past this far, but I think it made it this far because Asim is going to bait for everybody. Mac can slay the fuck out. Zuma is Zuma. Zuma's a top 5 SMG player. / flex player, depending on what the meta turns out to be for him. And then Clayster's a 3-time world champ. Clay knows how to win despite losing full.
Right.
So that's not really an issue to me.
Mac's kind of a wild card for me because he came in last year and yeah, he played really good, but who knows if he's going to be able to do that again.
All right, so based on what we're saying, New York is number 5.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Mac, he can be good again. I'm not saying that he can't, but we've only had 1 year to see how good he actually is. I just need more reassurance on how he plays.
And this comes down to me not watching a lot of scrims outside of, like, OpTic, FaZe, and Sensor.
I haven't seen any of phases.
It's not like they're streaming it. There's a YouTube channel that just posts scrims.
Okay.
And sometimes it's a clickbaited title like OpTic versus FaZe 50-point clubbed or something like that. Okay. So I watch their scrims like that, just knowing how good they are like that, which brings us to the top 3, because by default that makes LA Thieves our number 4 team.
Yep.
So our top 3 contenders are Dallas, FaZe, and Chicago, which honestly right now I don't think there's any way to rank these guys. Like, okay, let me change that. Reigning world champion Dallas has to be number 1. That'd just be disrespectful to not have them at number 1 right now, considering they just won. So it's between 2 and 3. Right. So Dallas is our number 1 team.
I see FaZe at the number 2 spot. I mean, as much as I love OpTic and I'm a diehard OpTic fan, FaZe is definitely going to be above them.
All right, let's compare player to player. So going from Celium's their main AR to Formal. Let's compare that. Formal is the better AR.
They got Arcides now.
Celium's the main AR.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure Arcides went to FaZe to solely be the main AR.
I don't know if that's the case.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the whole reason he wanted to go.
As far as I know, Celium was always going to be the main AR because that's the only thing he can play with.
Okay. I mean, unless they're running a 2 AR setup, which is possible.
I mean, technically the meta is 3 ARs, so it's not really going to matter. But let's just compare. All right, then let's compare Formal to Arcides. I still think Formal's better. That doesn't really change anything. Let's compare Dashy to Arcides. Raw talent, Dashy wins, but unfortunately there's more to raw talent there's more to this than raw talent. So I think Arcides wins against Dashy.
Yeah.
Because Arcides is a better teammate. He's not afraid to speak up in scrims whenever they're doing dumb stuff. Dashy has a tendency to get bored and not take things seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Arcides wants to win. Dashy wants to win. Arcides wants to win way more than Dashy.
Yeah.
Just based on how he treats practice. So OpTic wins in Formal. Atlanta wins in Arcides. So
Simp. You're gonna compare Scump to.
It's Simp.
Okay.
This is tough. I feel like Scump is really good at this game. And I feel like Scump is better than Simp because Envoy is better at baiting. Or being bait, rather.
Yeah.
Like, we're literally comparing, like, if you're playing NBA 2K, this is literally like putting LeBron James against LeBron James and seeing what happens.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I feel like Simp and Scump are going to depend on who their supporting SMG player is, and I feel like Scump edges out Simp just because Envoy is better at being baited.
Right.
And he's a less selfish player than Abizi. Not to say Abizi's selfish, but Envoy is definitely for the win.
Right.
And that comes down to Abizi and Envoy. Abizi, I think, is the better raw talent player. Same with Dashi compared to Arcides, but in terms of winning, like we saw kind of this issue last year with FaZe. Like they just have so much slang power, but who plays the objective? They kind of forced Priesta to do it, but then Priesta was just sitting in hardpoints like, guys, they're coming.
I feel like Abizi might take that role this year. Either Abizi or Simp. I mean,
yeah, but here's I don't think, for lack of a better word, I don't think they're gonna make Simp hill bitch.
Right.
Abizi might have to play that role, or actually no, it might be Arcides. But the only issue with that is your main AR playing in hill gives up a lot of map pressure.
Yeah,
it comes down to how they play. Like me being a biased OpTic fan, as unbiased as I can say this, I do think right now, from what I've seen, OpTic is the number 2 team. Just comparing player to player. Because they just work that way. Like Formal's gonna lock down your lanes. Dashy's a wild card. If Dashy pops off, there's nobody beating OpTic. Scump and Simp are equals, but Scump's role works better for Scump because Envoy is Envoy.
Right.
It would be the same way if Envoy played on FaZe for Abizi. Simp would be the better player on FaZe between Scump and Simp if Envoy was baiting for Simp.
Yeah, 100%.
So, based on that logic, OpTic is my number 2 and FaZe is my number 3.
I mean, I feel like either team could go in and out. To me, I feel like they're pretty even.
I mean, like I said, the top 3 teams, the only reason Dallas is the number 1 team is because it would just be blatantly disrespectful for them not to be number 1 after literally winning the World Championship and having the exact same roster.
Right.
Minus Clay. But the top 3 teams can be interchangeable, in my opinion.
Yep. Definitely.
So, final rundown for our power rankings. Number 1, Dallas. Number 2, Chicago OpTic. Number 3, Atlanta FaZe. Number 4, LA Thieves. Number 5, New York Subliners. 6, Minnesota Rocker. 7, Seattle Surge. 8, Los Angeles Guerrillas. 9, Toronto Ultra. 10, London Royal Ravens. 11, Florida Mutineers. And then 12, Paris, because they don't have a team. Or anything at this matter, because it took 2 months to send a fire emoji on Twitter.
That blows my mind.